What do you regret the most? Waiting for the right moment for everything to be perfect to take action, instead of just taking actions and making moments right. When I was 7 or 8 years old, I snapped at my dad for getting me the wrong video game, and I can still see the disappointment in his face. Haunts me to this day. I called my buddy one night because I knew he was having a tough time. I told him I'm coming over. He kept saying, "No, I'm good, I'm good." He was less than a mile away. I said, "Okay." And then his mom called me in the morning saying he was dead, and what did he say to me in the phone call? I wish I went over. Succumbing to my fear of rejection. Getting morbidly obese. I no longer am, but some damage is done. I feel that most other mistakes I made can be reversed or mitigated, except this one. Marrying the wrong person and having a child with them. I love my daughter more than anything, but I wish she had a better family environment to grow up in. Letting my happiness depend on someone else, on the wrong person. Believing the doctor when he said I was a late bloomer at 17. Attending university having not gone through puberty is not fun. Had to wait until I was 23 until I was diagnosed correctly with Kallmann syndrome. In community college, a sociology professor asked us to raise our hands and say what religion we are, voluntarily of course. This was to get an idea of how diverse the class was. Everyone went around and said the typical Christian, Catholic, Muslim, etc., and that was that. The professor then asked, "Are there any others?" So I raised my hand. I don't really identify with a certain religion. I was raised Christian, but I'm more of an evolution Big Bang science type of believer. I explain this to the entire class, and the professor asks if there's a name for it. I say, Scientology? He just kind of smiled and said, "Great," before moving on. Then I learned what Scientology is. Then I learned I'm probably agnostic. This experience had no repercussions other than the fact it still makes me cringe, knowing people thought I was a Scientologist. This was about a decade ago. My older brother was graduating high school. We were in the car ready to go, and being an angsty teen, I wanted to go hang out with my boyfriend instead. My brother had some learning disabilities and in reality shouldn't have graduated, but he did, and it was a big deal for my mom and everyone else. My mom was a high school dropout and always pushed us all to graduate, which we did. I threw such a fit. She ended up dropping me off at my boyfriend's house on the way to the ceremony. My brother died very unexpectedly 2 years after that. I never got the chance to apologize for being so selfish, and that is my one true regret in life. I always meant to, but it's hard admitting you wronged someone you loved and chose not to stand there in support of them when they needed it. Graduating ended up being his last big accomplishment, and I missed it to hang out with my shitty boyfriend. This was many years ago when I was a little kid on a holiday with my parents. We went camping, and being the social kid I was, I made friends quickly. We connected through our Game Boys and tried out all the games we had. He borrowed me his cartridge of the Pokemon trading card game so I could play at my own tent. I loved it. When it was time for us to go back home again, I totally forgot it was still in my Game Boy. I said goodbye, got in the car, and fell asleep since it was a long drive to my hometown. When we got back, I obviously grabbed my Game Boy again, only to notice I accidentally left his cartridge in it. I felt so bad. I was scared he thought I had stolen it from him since he knew I liked the game so much. Being scared, my mother would be angry. I never explained the situation. I hid the game and never played it again. To this day, I am extremely aware of my stuff, especially when I've used other people's things. It's such a silly little thing, but I absolutely still regret it many years later. I was in the Virgin Islands with my wife. She saw a bracelet that she really liked. I had the money and I didn't buy it. That was 21 years ago and it still bothers me. I guess I need to take her back there and get it. I didn't take college seriously. I was just going through the motions and never graduated. Now, all my closest friends have their careers and are making a good living, while I'm stuck in mediocrity. I never thought about the future back then, and it hurt me big time. I'm 1,000 steps behind everyone else. Meeting my ex-wife on the internet one summer, then driving non-stop from Northern Ontario to Wyoming to marry her, all within 2 months. When I was 15, I tried to kill myself. Apparently, I was yelling at my mother in the back of the ambulance, telling her she should have let me die. I don't remember it, but I wish it never happened. Getting married at 19, in 1995, not really discovering who I was as a person. Thinking then, wow, someone loves me, that won't happen again, better not let that go. Having such low self-esteem to put up with 17 years of shit. I do have 2 great kids from it though. I missed the last Christmas I had with my grandma to spend it with my now ex-boyfriend, who would have otherwise been alone for Christmas. I didn't know at the time it would be our last Christmas with her. We video called, but that isn't quite the same. He broke up with me after I spent a weekend looking after his cat while he was on a work trip. After how he treated me towards the end of the relationship, I realized he really wasn't worth missing out on family time for. I'll probably regret this for the rest of my life. I miss you, Grandma. Falling into a depression and spending years coasting by instead of doing something about it. I fucked up years of my life due to sheer laziness and contempt. Not seeing my grandfather before he died. I was 17, very much in the puppy love stage of my first relationship, and convinced she was the one. Got the news that my grandfather had bowel cancer. He was an amazing man. Despite not having much, he always used to try and make things special for us growing up. He'd appear at 7 a.m. every Christmas morning dressed as Santa, magic sweets behind cushions in the sitting room. He was a typical grumpy granddad, but underneath that, he had a heart of gold. Instead of visiting him, I spent time with her. I had multiple opportunities. Countless times I could have gone and seen him, and I turned those away, believing there was always another time. There wasn't. He died before I realized what I'd done. I hope he knew just how much I loved him. He meant everything to me, and I didn't even give him the courtesy of saying goodbye. I'll regret that for the rest of my life. Acting on my depression, if I knew I'd be here today, I never would have done what I did. Clarification, I attempted to end my life, which I obviously didn't succeed. I regret ever doing that in the first place. I am happy to be alive. I do not regret failing at the attempt. Rather, I am glad it did. Some people thought I regretted that I failed, and I still want to die, which is not true. I allowed my buddy in school to perform a wrestling move on me. He lost his footing while he had me on his back, and I fell, teeth first on the ground. My right front tooth shattered 1/4. The pain lasted for a week, and also lost my chance at getting braces. I really regret the amount of drinking I did in my 20s and 30s. While I've been sober for over 2 years and don't plan on ever being intoxicated again, I will never get past the guilt and shame I feel for putting myself and my family through god-awful times and events when I was regularly drinking myself into a coma. Being a bully in elementary school. I regret breaking up with my ex when her mental and physical health situation was getting really bad. 5 years later, she's recovered completely, and I'm still alone. She's amazing, and I managed to get her, so I can't be as completely worthless on the market as I thought, right? Ha ha ha, no. Lightning don't strike twice. I am going to be by myself for the rest of my life. Letting my abusive ex screw up my life as bad as I did. I lost contact with my best friend, and I still miss him daily. I almost screwed up so many friendships. It took me years longer to finish my undergrad degree and could have messed up my chances at further education. I still have PTSD-level social anxiety, and for what? A selfish asshole who couldn't feel secure about themselves unless they were screaming at me and hitting me? Nah, man, forget that. What a waste of 2 years of my life. You always have resources if you need to get out of a bad situation. I'm always here to talk if you need an ear. It gets better, you can be free,